Welcome to Game Crunch, your weekly video game podcast. My name's Mike Anastasia, and I'm here to talk to you about games and things. So, fun fact, this was supposed to be a very fun episode, but instead it's a very sorry episode for a couple reasons. First, I am sorry that this is just an episode with me, because I am sorry that I accidentally did not record the episode that Brandon and I actually made for you. So we sat down yesterday and recorded a whole episode, and then as I sat down to edit it, I didn't have anything. Apparently, just because of the way that we went about recording yesterday, it was different, and it caused me to forget to record. So you have to listen to just me talk for a little bit. We're going to have a little intern episode. I'm going to talk a little bit about things that I've been playing. I'll give you a few updates from what Brandon had talked about, and then we'll be back to a normal episode for you next week. So, what's on the agenda today? Well, I will start with my big one, which was Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. So I did end up picking this up through Game Pass recently on Xbox. And I played through the whole game. I really enjoyed it. I think it's definitely one of my top games for 2024. And you guys will hear more about that when we do our Game of the Year discussion, probably at the end of this month. So you'll have that to look forward to. But let me tell you about the things that I like. To me, Indiana Jones really seems to be... kind of reminds me of like if Metroid, Prime, Tales of Monkey Island, and BioShock had a baby game, and that's what this is. So it might sound strange, but I'll kind of go through and explain it. So part of it is this game to me really feels like the next iteration of point-and-click adventure games. This game does obviously have some action-adventure elements with like fighting and battling and stuff like that, and I'll get to that in a second. But the core mechanics of the game are puzzles. So everything's a puzzle. There's tons to kind of go through and do here. You have a main story that you're kind of working through, this adventure of the Great Circle. And it takes you through multiple different locales, which I was not expecting. I was expecting to kind of be stuck in one area or so. But no, this really takes you around the world into a bunch of different places. So I thought that was really cool. I did really like that. The movements itself, they're kind of clunky, which is kind of where my BioShock kind of reference comes into. It does kind of have a lot of that feel of that in some ways in terms of like the movements and those kind of mechanics. And in terms of the Metroid kind of comparison, it does use a system where you're transitioning from first person, which is where you are 90% of the time, to third person periodically. And that kind of seems to stutter. Brandon asked me specifically if I thought it was more of a graphical thing, because this game is using some pretty intense lighting effects. And while the game does have some frame rate stuttering that even I can notice, I would say it does run overall pretty well in that regard. It's stuttery because it starts to smoothly transition, kind of, pulls out and kind of blends into third person, but it starts to pull out and then it kind of abruptly changes. It's almost kind of, I wouldn't say disorienting, but it's not as smooth as it could be. They definitely could do a little bit better. The game itself, though, looks really nice. The locales look amazing. Having been to at least one of these areas that the game goes to before, I can say it definitely, in terms of scale and how it looks very much kind of how I remember some aspects of it. Obviously, this takes place back in the 30s, and my time in the event was within the last 10 years. So definitely different locale. Just talking almost, 80 years? 90 years difference. But no, it looks really good. I do really like that aspect of it. The game, though, it does have some Bethesda jank. So don't be surprised or disappointed if you pick that up. That is there. I ran into some issues that I had. I have one side quest which is 100% unfinishable for me because the last objective item will not show up on the map, even though I'm right where the map marker shows that it should be. There's not any side quest or anything that's not complete that's limiting it's there. Just it does not show up. So that's kind of an issue. I had another one where I went to go put some photos down on a desk for an NPC character, and as soon as I pulled the photos out of my pocket, they flew into the ceiling out of my hand. So there's definitely some issues, and I've read some bugs that people have run into online. So there's some people who are reporting getting to areas where you can't switch out of costumes, which makes it so you can't progress forward, or different objectives not showing up, NPCs not going to where they need to be to let you progress through the game. So there are definitely some issues in this game. Definitely needs some bug fixes. So hopefully those come out in the near future. So, to make the game a little bit more playable. Some other things that I really like about this game too, some of the mechanics, like there's kind of like a stealth mechanic to it. The stealth, if you remember, I don't really love stealth. I'm not very patient with it, so I tend to get frustrated with them very quickly. But the way that this game handles it, I think, is very nicely. It is very forgiving. If an enemy character spots you, it isn't like instant failure. They need a little bit of time to process what they're seeing before they will come and get you, and the game kind of alerts that to you visually. So that is very nice. I do appreciate that. And one thing that's really nice too with the costumes, and I saw a comment somewhere where there's like, well, this isn't really Indiana Jones because, he would be stealthy. I'd actually disagree with that. In the movies, he uses costumes quite a bit, and he uses them to infiltrate areas. The way that this game uses that is if you have a costume on the grunt characters, they won't notice you. But if there are any higher ranking enemy characters, they'll be able to find you, and they will notice you. And they'll still spot you kind of the same way that the other ones will, so it's still not instant failure, but you need to use caution. You can't just run into a base since you have a costume all of a sudden, which I think is really neat. It kind of gives you some incentive to go and seek out those costumes, and then that gives you the ability to explore those areas a little bit more freely without needing to be extremely precautious because of the recommendations. But you still do have to use stealth quite a bit to get around this game. It is not taken out. And that's another thing that I think is really kind of nice with this game too. Like I said to Brandon yesterday, for a long time, especially when I worked at GameStop, the way we would describe Uncharted games would be like, oh, this is Indiana Jones if it was a game. No, that's an Uncharted game. This game is an Indiana Jones game. It's not running around slaughtering like thousands of enemies. You can, I actually think, get through a lot of areas without even doing any significant harm to enemies if you actually really wanted to. So you do have that option, but you can go in and fight them if you want. I tended to use mostly my fists as you go through, and I think that's a great way to be more like Indiana Jones. Like, he whipped out his gun from time to time, but he was not, heavy-handed with his pistol. He used it as needed, and I think that's how I ended up playing it, because it ends up being kind of more of a detriment. You do have access to a gun almost at all times, but using it draws a lot of attention to yourself, and it's not always, the best way to do it. So, and the game also does let you pick up a lot of items just kind of around the environment to use as weapons as well. You can find things like hammers and shovels and those kind of things, which are very obvious. But you can also use things like guitars or bells that might just be laying around. So a lot of different options to kind of address different situations as you go through them. One other thing that I think is really cool too is it has kind of a skills mechanic that's you get from books. So there'll be books laying around the environment, and you will be able to use those to get different upgrades. Like one book might give you the ability to carry more survival items. Another one might give you better melee attacks. Another one might give you like a stealth takedown. But you have to go through the environment and find these. There's also other ones that are purchased by different collectibles that are in the environment. Those ones increase your stamina and health. So you have those kind of as an option as well. I think that the game does a very good job of giving you a bunch of different kind of ways to progress through it and to make yourself better. And like I said, everything's a puzzle. I think that's one thing that's just very cool. And in terms of how the game's broken down, you have your main story, you have your field work, which were kind of like these big kind of side quest story pieces. Usually they might have some more grand kind of things to work through in them. Like I know one that I did took me to a different kind of underground temple area that I would not have explored otherwise. So those kind of things are very nice. Then you also have mysteries. Those are usually kind of like smaller side quests that are on the map. Those usually are very puzzle related and a lot of times involve you obtaining a combination to a safe to get some sort of item out of it, but not always. So that's kind of that. And then on top of that, there's lots of different journal notes and field work to kind of, or not field work, journal notes and just kind of just different things that you can accumulate in the environment to help enhance the story or the world building. Another thing that's very similar to Metroid Prime, I would say, is that it has the ability to take pictures and photos. So those are for your notebook that you fill out as you go through, but it does add an extra layer of kind of depth there. Like you will see someone, I'm trying to think of a good one. I think one was someone was playing like a game in one of the open areas, and you can take a picture of that. And if you do that, it will add the picture to the book, and then it will kind of tell you a little bit about the activity that they're doing. Those are some things, but sometimes it might be like locales, like temples and things like that. So I really like this. In my mind, this game is the sixth movie. This is a very much Indiana Jones piece of media, and I do really enjoy it. As a big Indiana Jones fan, I think it's excellent. I think despite the bugs and stuff that I mentioned, the game, I believe, is for most people fairly playable from beginning to end, although it seems that most people that do want to say like 100% do everything, which is collecting all those mysteries and those journal entries and everything like that, that does not seem like it is possible at this time just because of the bugs. It may be, but at least anecdotally from what I've seen online, I've not really seen anyone that's successfully been able to complete it. So there is that. But there is a ton to do in this game. I think it's excellent. I highly am recommending it at this time, regardless. And I think that if it ends up coming out for the PlayStation 5 next year, as it's supposed to, well, in this year, in the spring, then I think that will be great. More bugs should be worked out, so hopefully better experience for people that are going to pick it up then. There's supposed to be DLC out sometime this year as well. That's very exciting. And then I'm kind of hoping that maybe this will come to maybe something like the Switch 2 later this year as well. I definitely would dip back in for that again. I highly enjoyed this experience, and I thought it was excellent. And actually, one thing too that I think is also kind of testament to how good this game is, the visuals and the animations, spot on. The Indiana Jones himself looks fantastic, and Troy Baker knocked it out of the park. I think that he did so well. When I started the game, I thought I was listening to like in Indiana Jones. I thought it was actually like Harrison Ford, and I thought maybe they had maybe used AI and aged the voice a bit to make it sound more like he did at that time. But no, it's Troy Baker from top to bottom. He really knocked it out of the park, and he deserves some awards for this. And it's too bad that the game came out late enough in the year that it got overlooked for things like that. But hopefully, maybe with the PlayStation 5 release this year, and obviously with the Xbox release late enough last year, they will be able to get some more recognition for it, because it definitely deserves that. So yeah, that's it. Brandon, I know, said he was pretty excited about it. He is planning on trying to get through this before Game of the Year as well. We will see. He did also just recently get Metaphor ReFantazio, which was one game that he wanted to get through before Game of the Year, and he's starting that coming up. So you will have that to look forward to as well. So there's that. The other game that I talked about this week, which I was hoping to be done with before we recorded, and even again before I re-recorded this, is Mario and Luigi Brothership. I am so freaking close to the end. I just want this game to be over, and it just really betrayed my trust. So this game just wants to overstay its welcome, which, that's great. There's so many games that we complain about, like, oh, they're not long enough. Nope, they are definitely long enough, and this game is a very long one. So I'm over 40 hours at this point. The thing that got me frustrated was that area where it's like, all right, go to the final boss now, finish this fight kind of thing. And then you get there and you beat the boss, and it's like, oh no, just kidding. And it sends you back out, and I ended up getting into another quest line that took me a couple hours to get through, and now I'm on my way back to fit the final boss again. And the game too, it wasn't even, these extra quests were not like simple things to kind of work through. It's like, oh no, these people are on this island, but we don't know which one, and you have to go and find them. Like, what? Like, I don't have time for this. Like, I want to be done with this game. I do not want to be going back through these random islands again, trying to find something that you can't tell me where it is. So that was frustrating. I did even peek at like a walkthrough, because after it did it to me the second time, I was like, nope. I'm like, what island is this? I'm not going to just randomly guess islands again trying to find these people. So I did that, and I found out there's so much left to do, and this is getting frustrating. So I still stand behind the fact that this game is not a 5 out of 10 game like IGN gave it. I think the gameplay is great. I think that overall, I think it's a great package. It looks really nice. It plays really nice. The actual Mario and Luigi like gameplay, like RPG mechanics, work really well. It's just the game just does not want to let you do what it wants you to do, and it likes to interrupt you a lot. And those are my frustrations from this game are. But I would still say this is very, very well recommended. But I do think that there are better Mario RPGs on the platform otherwise at this point. And both of them had come out within the last year as well. So Mario RPG, which came out at the end of, well, I guess 2023, about a year before Mario and Luigi Brothership. And then we also had the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake, which came out earlier this year. Both of those are highly recommended above Brothership. Brothership's good, just definitely not quite where we would like it to be in terms of what it's doing. So there's that. Since Brandon's not here, I am going to give you a little brief recap. When I say little brief recap, I mean little brief recap of the things that he talked about. I can't remember them all in the detail that he would go, so I'm just going to ask him to kind of talk about them again next week. First one was Atlas, and I do remember that he did really enjoy. Actually, he's been playing through 2 indie games at the end of this last year. Atlas, it's spelled ATLYSS, and Web Fishing. Both of the games he did really enjoy. Web Fishing, I know he enjoyed we kind of discussed it. It kind of reminded me of an old, like those Yahoo games, like chat rooms where you could play like Euchre or something and, kind of had chat. That's kind of what Web Fishing was like. He described it more as like an AOL, chat messenger room. But I think they both get kind of the same idea across. But he was having a lot of fun playing that. The big thing that he talked about this week, though, and it wasn't game related, but something that he was really high on, was Squid Game Season 2. Apparently, he was so enraptured into it, he binge watched the entire second season in one day. He said it was better than the first season in his mind, and he's really excited to see where the series picks up from here. So, that's very highly recommended. I have not gotten a chance to watch it myself yet, but I was a big fan of the first season, so I know it's something that I will be returning to at some point. So, there is that. The last thing that I wanted to mention here, we did talk a little bit about the Game Awards and the Steam Awards, and really not anything too exciting. You weren't missing out on too much there. Just a little talk really about like Wukong. Brandon, as you know, he's a big fan of that type of game, but he's kind of not high on the game in terms of comparatively to maybe others in the genre. And while he does understand why it's been getting a lot of awards, it also kind of expressed some thoughts on maybe why it would not have been as warranted compared to maybe some of the other games that were nominated. So there's that. Although obviously we always like to celebrate gaming, so happy to see the games are doing well and being acknowledged. So I think that's a win all the way around. Um, all right, and with that, I think that's the end of the lost episode recap that I have here. Obviously, we'll be coming back to a lot of these topics again over the next couple weeks, as we get closer to when we are going to be doing our game of the year. We've already kind of locked it down to the end of January, so that should be coming up in the next few weeks. So you'll be hearing more about that in the near future. And with that said, as always, thank you for listening to us tonight. I do appreciate you tuning in despite the fact that I accidentally lost the real episode for you guys. I apologize again. So, hey, I've only done it twice in 10 years. I think that's pretty good. And it's been a long time since the last one. So, that's quite an accomplishment, I would say. But anyways, thank you again for listening to us tonight. Don't forget you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to reach out to us, you can send us an email at gamecrunchcast@gmail.com. And don't forget, all of our old episodes are engagement-crunch.com. And with that said, my name is Mike Anastasia. You can find me online. I'm Clash of Penguin there or on your favorite gaming consoles. And until next week, game on.
Another year has come and gone. We level up and power on. From pixel dreams our spirits rise. Game on, we chase the endless skies. Game on, let's start this brand new year. Level up, cast aside your fear. From the shadows we will steer. Game on, our path is crystal clear. We cover bosses every day. In this quest we find our way. With every challenge going green. Game on, let's live our wildest dream. We cover bosses every day. In this quest we find our way. With every challenge growing gleam. Game on, let's live our wildest dream. Game on, let's start this brand new year. Level up, cast aside your fear. From the shadows we will steer. Game on, our path is crystal clear. New adventures pixel bright. We'll journey forth through day and night. Together strong, our hearts ignite. Game on till dawn, we fight, we fight. Game on, let's start this brand new year. Level up, cast aside your fear. From the shadows we will steer. Game on, our path is crystal clear. We conquer bosses every day. In this quest we find our way. With every challenge growing gleam. Game on, let's live our wildest dream. We conquer bosses every day. In this quest we find our way. With every challenge growing gleam. Game on, let's live our wildest dream. New adventures brings the right. We'll journey forth through day and night. Together strong, our hearts ignite. Game on till dawn, we fight, we fight. New adventures big so bright. We'll journey forth through day and night. Together strong, our hearts ignite. Game on till dawn, we fight, we fight. Game on, let's start this brand new year. Level up, cast aside your fear. From the shadows we will steer. Game on, our path is crystal clear. New adventures pixel bright. We'll journey forth through day and night. Together strong, our hearts ignite. Game on till dawn, we fight, we fight. Game on, let's start this brand new year. Level up, cast aside your fear. From the shadows we will steer. Game on, our path is crystal clear.
Hey y'all, it's just me today. I don't know what you're still listening for. I don't have a lot of behind the scenes secrets to add at the end of this episode, because usually I get those from when we record them, and since I lost the recording, I'm anything exciting to stick in here. But I hope you guys all had an excellent new year. I hope you guys all had a fantastic holiday season, and we are definitely looking forward to 2025. There's lots of great stuff coming out this year that I know we're all excited for. Switch 2, Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon Legends, Grand Theft Auto. This year seems like it's going to be really stacked. So we got a lot to look forward to, and we are excited to talk to you about these things through the years that come out. So until next week, game on.